What's going on? In today's episode, we're going to be going through the top 10 scenes or moments in the history of Stranger Things. And just as always, a lot of spoilers coming up. I'm going to be going through the specifics of all of these moments, so please do not watch if you haven't seen all these seasons. A few honorable mentions as far as moments that I won't go too in-depth for are the Eleven and Brenner conflict in Season 4, Episode 8. I thought that was a very menacing scene and very big for Eleven as she stood up to Brenner, and it took a twist right at the end when he stabbed her with that syringe. Another honorable mention is Steve on Laffy Gas in the Russian lair, one of the funniest scenes in the history of the show, I think, and it was really during the time when Steve became one of the best characters. Eleven flipping the van is also a legendary moment that didn't make my top 10, believe it or not. And as my final honorable mentions, the deaths of two legends, Bob Newby and Eddie Munson. May they rest in peace. At number 10, I have the never-ending story scene in the finale of Season 3. Of course, this is between Dustin and Susie, or Dusty Bun and Susie Poo, if you know them better as that. This is a legendary scene because Dustin, of course, calls up Susie on the radio and says that they need Planck's constant to save the world, and Susie thinks he's exaggerating, thinks he's just playing one of his games or whatever, even though they really need it to save the world. And Susie, although it's a little annoying, says, "Oh, you need to sing this song with me or I'm not going to tell you it." But Dustin, the great sport that he is, he starts spitting it out with everybody on the same radio station. Everybody can hear him, and it's one of the most hysterical / heartwarming / important moments of the season and of all of Stranger Things, because without calling Susie there, they have no way to get that key to turn off that machine that the Russians have underground that is keeping the gate open and keeping this mind flare alive. The scene really summarizes why we all love Dustin so much. He just has such a warm and playful soul. Number 9 on my list also involves Dustin, and it is Dustin and Steve becoming friends in Season 2. The specific scene I'm referring to here is in Season 2, Episode 6, when Dustin tells Steve they have to go do something very important as Steve is showing up to Nancy's house with flowers. In the following episode, it cuts to a scene of them walking in the woods, and Steve starts to kind of break down what's going on with Dustin, why they're out there, but then they get into some relationship talk, and Steve gives Dustin some advice for how to talk to girls and for how to do his hair. He kind of spills his secret to Dustin, and it's just a scene that really sparks the best friendship in the show. And I think it's a really important scene because Season 3, their friendship is legendary. Season 4, it continues to be so. And I really just enjoyed the dialogue between them the entire time. A lot of funny things said. And it was also a moment of vulnerability from Steve that I feel like we hadn't seen before this point, and a big turning point for his character at this point in the show. And it also gave Dustin a much needed confidence boost that he didn't really have at the time, I think. At number 8, I have 11 saving Mike from jumping off the cliff in Season 1. Luckily, the timing was good for Mike as he showed what a great friend he was, as he was willing to sacrifice himself, apparently, so that Dustin wouldn't lose his teeth in a very painful way to the Hawkins bullies. He jumps off the cliff, he makes the split-second decision, and luckily 11, who they were trying to look for earlier in the episode, shows up at just the right time, suspends him in midair for a while, then picks him back up with her mind, of course, throws him back on top of the cliff, and then she makes the bullies pay. She breaks Troy's arm, and I forget what she does to the other one, but she really makes a statement, and she even tells them to go at the end. One of the best uses of Eleven's powers in the history of the show, I think. Such a great moment. And you really just see how much Eleven has already come to care for Mike and all those friends she has now. It's also a great moment at the end of the scene when Dustin tells them, "Oh, you better run. She's crazy and she'll kill you." And also 11 reveals to Mike that she thinks she's the monster. And Mike, of course, is like, no, you just saved my life. So a little bit of everything in this scene, some good action, some good suspense, some good displays of friendship and love for one another. At number 7, I have the snowball dance in the finale of Season 2. And this is probably the most heartwarming moment in the history of the show. You feel so much for Mike when he's the only one left sitting there, and then 11 walks through the doors and saves the day as Hopper has allowed her to go out and enjoy this very special night. And Mike had been telling her about this since season 1 before she got lost in the Upside Down. And for this dream they had to finally come to life now, being that it was so unexpected, Mike didn't think she'd be allowed out of the house. Now that she's there, you see his eyes light up as soon as she walks in. It's just one of the best moments. And then of course they share that kiss later on in the night. I also love some of the other things that were going on at the dance. Lucas and Max are kind of official at this point. They have a nice little dance and kind of a semi-kiss. Even though Dustin struggles to pick up a girl of his own, Nancy sees it from across the room and very generously comes over and dances with him and kind of gives him a confidence boost and says, in a couple years, these girls will know what's up and they'll really love you, Dustin. Even Will got asked to dance, so really everybody took a W at the dance, and it was just a really heartwarming scene. Really great that Hopper allowed 11 to go. Just so much build up from them not being able to see each other for so long. It was a great moment for those two, and a great moment for the other kids as well. At number 6, I have Hopper and Joyce saving Will. This is, of course, the climax in the last episode of season 1. And it's really just perfect television, paralleling the death of Hopper's daughter to him in the situation saving Will was beautifully done. And it really just made that scene that much more emotionally charged. It would have been good if they just went in there and Hopper was pounding his chest with all his might to save Will, and then Will wakes up miraculously. Joyce is crying with happiness. But showing that Hopper wants to do this because, he was unable to save his daughter. His daughter couldn't survive. He wants to make sure that Joyce doesn't go through the same pain he went through and wants to make sure that this little boy returns home as he should. Starting into the top 5, at number 5, I have the Henry/Vecna/1 reveal in episode 7 of season 4. This is definitely the biggest plot twist or reveal in the history of the show. I was mind blown when it happened. I was starting to get a feeling that maybe he was one only a few minutes before it was actually officially revealed, though. And then, you see 11 walk into the room and he has these kids up on the wall and their bones all broken horrendously. You start to think maybe he's Vecna too. Definitely didn't see the Henry side of it coming at all. Definitely did not see that. So it was just a wild, wild reveal. Something I certainly wasn't expecting, and just really well done. It was just really creepy too, the way he was talking to 11, trying to kind of lure her to the dark side as well. He goes from this character that, seems to be helping 11, but it seems like now this whole time he was kind of tricking her. It's kind of unbelievable, but yeah, that was a great moment. It took up like the last 20 minutes of episode 7 too, so it went for a while. His explanation about his kind of dark outlook on the world, it was just crazy. And the fact that Vecna, Henry, and 1 are all the same person. Yeah, there you have it, folks. I don't know. At number 4, this is probably the most broad one I have, so it encompasses the most moments, but I feel like it kind of all goes together, and I didn't really want to pick one because then I would probably have to put each one of these as an individual slot, and that would, bump other things off the list. So I have 11 saving Hawkins, reuniting with Mike, and closing the gate. All 3 of those things kind of bunched into one in the finale of season 9 are all just such great moments. I love when she walks through the door and you see Mike kind of step in front of everybody teary-eyed, and he's just so happy to see her and to now know that she's alive after nearly a year of not knowing at all. And then not only the fact that she closes the gate and once again they kind of have a temporary victory, they kind of get rid of this evil for a while, but just the graphics of the scene, her using her past as motivation, and then she levitates, closing the gate. You see the Mind Flare, bumping its head against the border of the gate, and 11 kind of gets scared for a second, but then she goes into that rage mode and she levitates. Hopper's even like, what is going on here? Definitely why I like the season 2 finale so much, and it brings season 2 to a perfect close. I love it. At number 3, I have 11 reading Hopper's letter. This is in the finale of season 3. And this is a very, very emotional moment as well. It's so hard-hitting when they start playing the song Heroes, the same song that was played when Will's fake body was found in that body of water at the end of episode 3 all the way back in season 1. They play the same song here, and I think it's even harder hitting. 11's reading the note and crying, and Hopper, although he wasn't able to open up to her and Mike with an in-person conversation. Apparently he did end up actually writing down his feelings toward the situation, and he basically expresses that he didn't want to lose her to the natural cycle of life. He was scared to know that things were going to change and that she was going to grow up and start to need him less, start to want to hang out with boys more, and he was just fearing that change because he loves what she has done for his life and he loves her so much, and it shows through this note. I also thought it was pretty good how they had 11 reading the note, and then the note continued to play, his voiceover of the note continued to play as they were driving away, because it was kind of like, all right, this is a new chapter. They're moving away from Hawkins. Hopper died, and, she's kind of reading how he felt about everything, and I just thought it was a very appropriate conclusion to their time in Hawkins. I like how they kind of tied the two events together at once. At number 2, I have Lucas crying with Max as she dies in season 4, episode 9. This is definitely one of the best acting performances in the show by both of them. I was blown away by Caleb McLaughlin as Lucas, and wow, I just can't say anything except Lucas is the GOAT! But seriously, I was just blown away when Lucas had Max in his arms, and he was saying, "You're not gonna die, you're not gonna die," and then he screams out to Erica for help. That's definitely the most I've cried at any point in the history of Stranger Things, not just because Max died. That in itself would have been sad enough, but the way it was executed by both Lucas and Max in that scene was perfect. And I know some people were kind of critical of not necessarily the acting in that scene or that scene, but the scene that follows when Eleven revives Max and, she's kind of returned to life. But I don't think that takes away from this moment. I don't think it takes away from how emotional it was, especially on first watch, not knowing what was coming next. I just loved that moment. And, the fear that Max had of dying, Lucas telling her, you're not going to. And this was just after, earlier in the episode, they had been talking about going to the movies later that week. And they had really grown to, even though they drifted apart for a while, and you saw that at the beginning of this season, you can tell that they're really just meant for each other. These two understand each other and love each other so much more than anyone else could know. And it hurt that much more because of how much we saw Lucas caring for her in the episodes leading up to this. He seemed very concerned for her safety, as he should be, but everybody else was just like, all right, this is the plan, this is what has to be done. And Lucas kept saying, you don't have to do this, we can find a way to maybe have Vecna go after somebody else. And just when it all came to a head there and the emotions poured out of Lucas, it was one of the best acting performances of any scene in the show. And wow, it was so hard-hitting. And my best moment or scene in the history of the show is Max in the running up the hill scene, season 4, episode 4, Dear Billy. I don't think this is a surprise. It obviously took off as far as in pop culture, the running up the hill song, because of this scene, and I think it's well deserved. This is a situation where I think the popularity is merited. It is deserved because this scene is just so good on so many levels, on surface level and on a deeper character level. Not only in the scene is Max running away from Vecna while that epic running up the hill music is playing, and not only was it so great that her friends were able to come up with this theory that the music would help her escape, on a deeper level for Max's character, she's really kind of running away from the problem she's been having all this time. She's running away from that depression. She's running away from this fear that she had to open up about her issues to her friends, to the people that care about her. And now she's running back toward them. So obviously she's running to them physically, but also metaphorically, she is running to them. I also loved the flashbacks as she was nearing her death at the hands of Vecna, and it was just great flashing back to that kiss with Lucas, flashing back to some of her best moments with Eleven, flashing back to the moments where she was happiest, and it was all with these friends, and she realizes that in order to escape this, she has to go back to them. She's very courageous, runs back and narrowly escapes, and I love it when she's in the embrace of Lucas and all of them kind of hug her at the end of the episode. It was such a great scene. The first time I saw it, I was just sitting there. I didn't know what to do. I was like, did this just happen? Was this actually just this good? and it was a great turning point for season 4, and I could talk about it forever, but I'm going to stop here. So yeah, these are my top 10 scenes or moments in the history of Stranger Things. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything you think I missed, or anything that I didn't even put in my honorable mentions that deserve to at least be there, if not in the top 10. I really feel like these moments are some of the things I think of first when I think of Stranger Things, and some of the things that encompass some of the themes of the show, which I think of as love, friendship, even through tough times, and a bunch of people coming together to try to live the life that they once had, to try to return to normalcy. And thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and give me your feedback in the comments as well. I'd be really curious to see what moments you guys really love in the history of Stranger Things. So I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.